But they love me still. When it's obvious if somebody treats you badly, they're not loving towards you. And you will also have a tendency then to justify your own behaviour towards others. So you might cheat on somebody in a relationship, for example, but say, oh, but I love you still, even though the person was very hurt by your actions and you were dishonest by your actions. And this is because we have all of these justifications that have now built into us through this environment from our childhood. Our childhood has defined to us what we believe love to be, but it's a gross distortion of what love really is, unfortunately. Instead of love being something that is pristine and pure and without violence, and without a tendency towards trying to harm or hurt another person, now love has become, under some definitions, I can hurt you and I'm loving you. Under some conditions, I can punish you and I'm loving you. And I am willing to accept that God does the same, because these are the things that I've been taught from my childhood. Now, if we were brought up in a totally different environment, and where our parents did not resort to violence as an act of correction, and I'm suggesting that parents can correct children without resorting to violence and without resorting to emotional manipulation. Like, there are other ways to correct a child. In fact, the way God does it is through restriction. So we can correct our children through restriction, whether that's physical restriction or other forms of restriction. But that is not violent, because it's done out of love and it's not physically harmful to the individual. Now, if we grew up in that environment, we would never accept that God is a wrathful God. We wouldn't even conceive a God who is angry. We wouldn't even conceive a person who is willing to destroy the wicked if we grew up in that environment. In addition, we would never conceive that parents who are hitting their children are actually being loving to their own children. We would never believe that. And we would never justify ourselves hurting another in the same way either. So you can see that a lot of these belief systems come from this cycle of violence perpetrated towards the child, that the child then absorbs into its nature, and then, because it's absorbed it, it's willing to absorb belief systems that justify it to itself. So most children, by the time they become adults, don't want to admit to themselves that their parents were violent towards them. I find it interesting that we live in a society, you in the US and us here in Australia and most Western societies live in this society, where we see an act of an adult physically harming an adult as assault.